The following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
Last week's Indy 500 left us with many questions. Can the new 500 champion Jacques Villeneuve turn his Indy triumph into an IndyCar championship? Can Christian Fittipaldi continue his upward climb and improve on last week's second? Will we continue to see new names atop the leaderboard like Eliseo Salazar? And what about Big Mo, Mauricio Guzman? He's been consistent. Can he score his first win? And least we forget, they're back. Team Penske, and now they have something to prove. We're at Wisconsin State Fair Park, and the Indy cars are ready for the Miller Genuine Draft 200. We have a great many stories here today. They're all exciting, but first thing first. The driver's condition of Stan Fox, that driver injured 1 week ago in that first lap accident at Indy. Well, the news is good. He is in fair condition in the neurointensive care unit at Methodist Hospital of Indiana. He is conscious. He has opened his eyes. He is responding to verbal commands, and they say he has greatly improved in the past couple of days. The question remains, what happened, and did the car do its job? At the start, Fox accelerated at 206 miles an hour. 1,000 feet or 3 seconds later, the onboard computer recorded suspension, steering, and deceleration changes some thought was a bump from another car. There is no visual evidence to support that. It could have been a race start turbulence combined with his turn into the corner. Just past the apex, the rear came loose. As Stan countered the skid, his wheels crossed the rumble strip and he hit the dirt. The car snapped to the right. He was then hit by Cheever, ripping a hole in the side of the tub. At 164 miles an hour, he then hit the wall. The side hit slowed him down. Apparently realizing his predicament, Stan's midget racing experience kicked in, and he crossed his arms. But weakened by Cheever's tub, the front end broke off. As Stan rode along the wall, he bruised his foot on Cheever's wing. Despite these pictures, there are no major external injuries. In fact, his uniform wasn't even damaged. His closed head injury was caused by G-forces and not by external trauma. Now, that closed head injury can be very subtle. The brain floats in fluid inside the skull, and the injury occurs when the brain twists in the skull or slaps up against the inside of the skull, and there is no way known to protect against that. Then there's the other story, Scott Goodyear and his passing of the pace car in the closing laps of the race. Well, again, we go to the video, and it clearly shows that he did, in fact, pass the pace car. There's no question about that. Scott's question was whether or not the green light was on when he did so. Again, the video shows that the yellow light was on when he went past, and so Scott has registered no protest. He understands his mistake, and Jacques Villeneuve is indeed the champion of the Indianapolis 500. But being the champion can be very distracting. Focus is going to be his problem this weekend. He's only qualified 11th here. And the Penskes are back, and they are looking very strong. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, they're the same teams, the same drivers, same crew, same cars. As Team Penske brought to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and failed to qualify for the running of the Indy 500. But the problems that they encountered with these cars at Indy benefit them on mile tracks such as Milwaukee. These Penskes create incredible downforce. And unfortunately, throughout the month of May, Team Penske was unable to dial some of that downforce out to gain the 225-mile-per-hour plus speeds necessary for qualifying. But as witnessed by their performance at Phoenix and the win by this man at Nazareth, they are extremely potent on mile ovals. Not potent enough, Gary Gerald, though, to win the pole position here at Milwaukee.
Well, Jack, the man who provided all the drama, the last qualifier yesterday afternoon, the man who sits right here in the cockpit, Teo Fabi. It's the 10th pole of his career. It's the first, however, in the last 5 years, and his first since he's been reunited with Jerry Forsythe as an owner. Something to keep in mind, every driver today has a brand new pressure relief or pop-off valve on his car. This valve is a brand new valve. It's much better, it's more efficient, more improved, but it's been tough for drivers to get adapted to it because it is so extremely sensitive. A couple of drivers were very outspoken in their frustration after qualifying yesterday, namely Paul Tracy and Bobby Rahal. Because it's so sensitive, the roughness of the race surface here at Milwaukee impacts the performance of this valve. And for more on that story, let's go back upstairs to our two former drivers, Bobby Unser and Sam Posey.
Well, Gary, the track is rough. Back when I ran here, it was a smooth racetrack, but because of the winter frosties, it's caused the pavement to buckle. The black lines that you see on the pavement on your television set, those are bumps, and they cause the new pop-off valve to blow off. But the good news, Sam, is it's going to be repaved in August, the first time since 1967.
Well, Bobby, rough track and a tough battle for the championship. Jacques Villeneuve leads it from Bobby Rahal and Scott Pruitt right now. But there are any number of other top drivers who could be contenders. And remember, the season is still young.
Well, there won't be another oval race until the end of July at Michigan. Now, that's 5 road races in a row, and their current points leaders are all good road racers.
Bobby, consider the strange case of Michael Andretti, though. He has led all 6 of these IndyCar Championship races this year without winning a single one of them. A strange situation. Now, he has, through history, won 4 races here on the Milwaukee Mile. Perhaps today he could turn his season around.
We think he's due.
Other things worth mentioning, rookie Andrew Ribeiro is 5th quick in his Honda. Mauricio Gulserman has been consistently good this year. Gil de Ferran is hard driving but needs to finish. And what about Christian Fittipaldi? Can he improve? We'll be back. Back at the Miller Genuine Draft 200 on the Milwaukee Mile. The cars are started and beginning to roll on their parade laps. Let's take a look at the starting grid. On the pole, Teo Fabi, his first pole since 1990. He hasn't won since '89. Alongside Emerson Fittipaldi, he won the last series race on a 1-mile oval at Nazareth in April. In row 2, it's Al Unser Jr., the defending Milwaukee champion. And Michael Andretti, with 4 wins at Milwaukee, make him the leader among active drivers. In the 3rd row, Andre Ribeiro, the fastest rookie here, using Honda power. And Robbie Gordon, he won earlier this season on the 1-mile oval at Phoenix. In row 4, it's Paul Tracy and Raul Boesel. In the 5th row, Adrian Fernandez and Mauricio Guzman. In the 6th row, Jacques Villeneuve, the Indy champion, and Scott Pruitt. In the 7th row, Christian Fittipaldi, Rookie of the Year at Indianapolis, and Jimmy Vasser. Row 8, Stefan Johansson and Bobby Rahal. The 9th row, Eddie Cheever and Gil de Ferran. The 10th row, Eliseo Salazar and Carlos Guerrero. The 11th row, Danny Sullivan and Hiro Matsushita. Row 12, Brian Herta and Buddy Lazier. And in the 13th and final row, Alessandro Zampedri and Lynn St. James, who is in by the promoter's option after an accident yesterday. Looking out the rear of Michael Andretti's car now. We also have on board, sitting on Paul Tracy's car, on Bobby Rahal's car. On the rear wing there of Robbie Gordon. The race analysis, 200 miles on the 1-mile oval, 138 miles an hour is Michael Andretti's record here. Expect the fuel stop at 75 to 85 laps depending on the caution periods. Other things that we'll be watching here today is the battle for the Nations Cup in IndyCar. To see which driver from which nation can score the most points. Currently the United States in the lead, followed by Canada and Brazil. And then there is the Manufacturers Championship as well. But the Team USA, here is the way they line up. There's everybody in Team USA. So you can get an idea of who is involved in this particular fight. The other teams, Team Canada, Team Brazil, the largest other than USA. And then Team Chile, Sweden, and Japan. And of course Mexico and Team Italy with Teo Fabi, the pole sitter coming from Team Italy. So that's the Manufacturers Championship. Now the stories we're going to be following here today: the rough surface of the track, the progress of Team Penske. What about these new pop-off valves? Will they be a problem? And the fuel management at this track. If you play it right, and you do it in just one stop, maybe so. So there they are as they line up behind the PPG pace car. Here's the chassis and engines and the tires breakdown in the field here today, as now they'll begin to go into the rows of 2 alignment. Roger Penske watches his team. For a moment, it looked like they were going to send a spotter up to the top of the grandstand here. Made an appearance, and then I think the officials had a conversation, and they may have asked him not to do that since that is not customary to IndyCar. We'll try and follow up on that a little bit. Off of turn 2, going down the backstretch. Beautiful day here in Milwaukee, sun shining, a little warm, sun definitely on that surface. That's going to make the tires a factor here today. So now we're set for a green flag as they're midway down the backstretch. And apparently they're going to hold on and keep the field yellow. Starter has a yellow flag in his hand, and the reason for this is that they have lost communication, which is landline, not two-way radio, to the observers around the track. They don't want to start. There's a whole safety issue there. They're not going to start with that. So they'll slow the field down. Once they cross the line, the laps will begin to count. But it will not be at racing speed, obviously.
This gives us a chance. Look at Teo Fabi actually leading the pack there, and try to memorize the way his car looks, because it's almost exactly the same as the two Penske's car. Very tough to tell apart.
Look at all the marks that we talked about in the pavement while we've got time there. Everything that you see is black on that pavement is absolutely, without doubt, a bump. And the guys have had a lot of wrecks during practice, Sam and Paul, and it's because of these bumps in the pavement.
This track was built back in 1903, one of the oldest tracks anywhere in the world. And it was the site for a few years of the Green Bay Packers playing championship football right on the infield on the right of this shot.
Well, the temporary confusion over the landline communication has now been repaired. They come back to the rows of two, actually rolling on the very first lap. And we anticipate the green flag will come out to start this run this time around. Teo Fabi, the pole sitter, on the inside. Fittipaldi to the outside. There we go. Green is out. Fittipaldi moves ahead and then drops back as Teo Fabi jumps into the lead. Michael Andretti comes up into third place. Robbie Gordon makes a strong move. On the backside, you ride with Robbie Gordon. That's Michael just ahead. That's a battle for third place. There's first and second ahead as Robbie Gordon comes into third. Now Robbie Gordon moving on Emerson Fittipaldi. He might get caught up close to that wall. No, he tucks back in.
The guys are really trying to feel each other out right now.
Hard driving. Look at Robbie Gordon as he comes sweeping around the outside. Tries to get around Fittipaldi and does.
You can see how rough it is. Just watch from the onboard cameras. The drivers are really fighting the wheel here.
Michael Andretti comes around Fittipaldi.
And Fittipaldi back around Michael. Exciting stuff.
And let's remember, this track is easy to pass on. Doesn't mean it's easy to pass any particular car, but there's lots of grooves. As we go through this race today, the groove will go from clear down to the grass, almost probably 3 or 4 car lengths out to the wall.
As Michael gets around Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy comes up to challenge Al Unser Jr. Tracy ducks to the inside of the corner, inside the Penske cars. Little Al holds on and is able to continue his cornering speed on the outside, so Tracy has to drop back in. Teo Fabi still the leader.
This is why this track is so great. That many different grooves, as Bobby mentioned, work here, and you get side-by-side racing.
A guy can actually set during the race, a driver, plan his move way later, like even halfway or 3/4 through the race right now, by keeping, for example, the outside groove clean from all the little rubber debris that gets thrown up there.
Teo Fabi, the leader. There you take a look at Robbie Gordon, who has been very aggressive. Look at that high, wide entry that he takes into the first turn. Only once in the last 10 years has the leader of the first lap gone on to win the race. That was Michael in 1992.
But he's got a tough one behind him. That Michael Andretti has led a lot of laps, won a lot of races here, and he's going to be tough. Gordon, on the other hand, as you can see, always has a tendency to go to a high groove.
Penske cars run 4th and 5th as Michael makes his move inside of Gordon. Gordon again takes that high, wide, outside line. They're side by side through 1 and 2.
Did you notice, Paul, that outside line is always quicker off the turn?
Oh, they touched.
Now that was a close wreck. That could have been a really bad wreck. That's a no-no, ever touching tires on these cars.
These are 2 of the hardest charging drivers in the business. Tremendous ability and very aggressive.
So Michael Andretti's going to try him again on the inside as the Penske team fighting itself as well. You can watch both those battles at once. Now we come back up to the front as Robbie Gordon challenging with Michael, but Michael has decidedly picked up the position on Robbie Gordon.
Now it's going to be interesting. Let's see whether Robbie Gordon comes back down. No, he's not.
Al Unser Jr. tucks inside of Gordon, and now the question I have to ask Bobby, did the touch do something to Robbie? He's dropped back 2 positions.
No, there wasn't enough pressure on it. That was just the smoke barely touching together. Had the tires touched a little harder, they'd have gone airborne.
Here's another look at that touch.
Now watch him just swing by. He's going to cut him a little bit close. Almost hit the nose, and it was the wing that hit. There's no damage. It might throw the wing setting off just a little bit.
Robbie Gordon continues on in 4th place. Here is Al Unser Jr. and Michael Andretti. The leader is still Teo Fabi. And there is Paul Tracy now beginning to worry Robbie Gordon. That's a battle for 4th place as Tracy moves inside.
Now we can watch Robbie Gordon on the outside on the right. The blue, the Valvoline car there in the front right there. He's still staying high. But he's going to pull down pretty soon because he's been passed by too many cars that are going low.
Tracy, you will remember, had that terrific win in Australia. Since then, he's been winless.
Michael Andretti and Al Unser Jr., they battle for second, while at the same time, this battle continues between Robbie Gordon and Emerson Fittipaldi. Though it's fallen a bit backwards, Gordon is now fifth. And already they're working their way through traffic. That was Lynn St. James in that brightly colored green car that they just came around. 11 miles into the record book. Teo Fabi is the leader of the race. He jumped into the lead from the pole, but now all of the leaders have to contend with this slower traffic ahead. And this is where your worth really gets proven on the Milwaukee Mile.
Well, it certainly does. And remember, if this race were to go with no yellow flags, which historically it's done this, fuel could be a problem also.
All right, we'll take a look. There comes Teo Fabi. We'll look at everybody as they come through here. There comes little Al and Michael as Michael tries to make his move to the inside. That's the interval back to the battle for second and third. That battle has broken off for the moment now. In fourth place is Paul Tracy. In fifth place, Fittipaldi.
Remember that at Indianapolis, as the race wore on, the soft compound tires brought about by the battle between Firestone and Goodyear for supremacy this year, the tires began to wear. The groove got narrower and narrower. We may see that happen as this race goes on.
Michael Andretti forced very low to get around here with Matsushita. Let's go to the pitch. Jack Arute, Robbie Gordon. Does he have a problem?
No, Paul, he does not. But remember at Indy, we got to listen into the radio. Derek Walker was watching the monitor, saw the touch between he and Andretti, and radioed to Robbie, that's okay, let him go by. Don't close quarter race at this time. It's a long event. The answer for Gordon, 10-4.
So Robbie listens up, drops back into sixth place, but still remains in contact with the leader as we let the field come through here once again. Give you an idea of where your favorite is.
You know, when you watch these cars going around the fabulous Milwaukee Mile, the most perfect oval in the world, just think, they're averaging 160 miles an hour roughly.
You can see with all those patches on the surface here and the movement of Teo Fabi's car on the surface, how rough this track really is.
Fabi has had a good season so far, but not a standout one. And I went down yesterday and found out a few things about the composition of his team. Recently joining his team, an engineer named Lee Dykstra, just in the last 3 or 4 days. Dykstra is a famous engineer with a great record, and he may be making the difference in Fabi's organization.
With 16 laps complete, Teo Fabi, the pole sitter, is the leader of the race. It's the third race that Teo has, in fact, led this year. Al Unser Jr., there he is in second. Michael Andretti is third, followed by Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi. We'll be right back with the Miller Genuine Draft 200.
In the Derby, Thunder Gulch stormed to victory. But in the Preakness, Timber Country ruled. Now it's the Belmont Stakes, Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports.
Back at the Milwaukee Mile, it's a battle for the lead as Al Unser Jr. in the past few seconds has closed on Teo Fabi, and now he fights for the lead of the race. Little Al comes to the inside on the backstretch. Teo takes a high line. They do have a car just ahead of them. That's Jill DeFerrin. And Little Al takes a way high string coming off the corner.
You can just see the horsepower is so evenly matched on the car. Little Al trying high-low. Fabi sometimes gets caught in traffic. That's the best racing I've seen in a long time.
Now the two leaders have Scott Pruitt and Jill DeFerrin ahead of them. They will become a factor as Teo Fabi continues to lead Little Al. Third place is Michael Andretti.
Remember the month-long frustrations of the Penske team at Indianapolis. It's all being vented now. But remember, too, that both Little Al and Emerson, in the effort to get those cars into the race at Indy, ran so many laps right on the limit. So they're as race-ready as if they had been in that race, maybe even more so.
Well, we've watched Little Al over the years here at Milwaukee. He's either really hot right on or really bad. Today looks like he's really hot on.
It's unusual, though, Bobby, wouldn't you say, for Little Al to run so hot early? He usually comes up from the back, a more calculating race.
I think he's very frustrated over Indianapolis.
Yep, Michael Andretti now battling for third place. That's Paul Tracy that is beginning to challenge him. Emerson Fittipaldi is back behind Tracy, and then Robbie Gordon. So nothing has truly changed in this order, but the battle heats up here at third place with Tracy moving around Michael.
It's unusual to see Tracy running ahead of Michael Andretti in an IndyCar race this year. These two teammates, which seem so equal coming into the season. Michael, in fact, has been faster in almost every race.
Let's also keep in mind, around the 75, 80 lap mark when guys start pitting, they'll be adjusting their cars. A lot of these cars you're watching now will get faster then.
26 laps into the record book for Teo Fabi, the leader of the race. Update on what Michael's problems may or may not be. Here's Gary Gerald.
And Bobby Unser was right on when you talk about how this track changes, and most often it seems like your car goes loose. That's the report from Michael Andretti. The back end wants to skate away from you here, and they're already trying to make adjustments from the cockpit. They hope that'll work. If it doesn't, then they'll have to make a more significant change on the first pit stop.
Gary. And it's a battle for the lead as Al Unser Jr. on the backstretch moves to the outside of Teo Fabi. And Al Unser Jr.'s got him going into the corner. Can he hold on to it? Yes, he does. Al Unser Jr. now bottled up behind
Christian Fittipaldi.
And Fittipaldi moves to the inside. And staying in pursuit is Teo Fabi. But now that Al Unser Jr. Seems to have a head of steam, he is rolling up, coming around Jack Donnell.
Boy, you can watch little Al when he came out of that corner over number 2. His rear end was wiggling. That means a little bit loose, or he's using the car to its 100%.
Hey, Jack Arute, little Al now has the lead.
And Paul, we talk about the fact that the team failed to qualify for the Indy 500. That means it's been almost 6 weeks since they've had any pit stops. Our Bucking company took that into account, and this morning they did a dozen additional pit stops so they could get back in full form. Expect the leader to come into the pits around lap 7-4.
We're riding with Bobby Rahal, who runs second now in the championship standings, who has finished second at this track but has never won it.
Back in 11th position with Bobby Rahal. Let's take a look at that pass that put Al Unser Jr. at the front of this field. There he was coming off of 2. Just got a good run off of 2. Teo Fabi caught a little bit behind slower traffic just ahead. Boy, but little Al really had a run.
And remember, that's Robbie Gordon's groove. He did it up high. In fact, most of his passing has been up high.
That's the groove. We've got to wait through the race to see if it. Here's Roger Penske talking to little Al. See if that groove stays clean with these softer compound tires.
30 laps into the record book, 1 lead change. Al Unser Jr. takes over from Teo Fabi. Third place is Phil Tracy. Michael Andretti is 4th. Emerson Fittipaldi is 5th. Robbie Gordon runs in 6th, and then Raul Boisel, Adrian Fernandez, Jimmy Vasser, and Bobby Rahal.
Interesting as we see Fabi drop out of the lead to realize that no pole sitter has won an IndyCar race so far this year.
There's Teo Fabi in the red and white car. Looks very much like the Penske cars right there. Trying to catch a Al, losing ground to him right now, Paul.
New team this year. Well, new return team with the Forsythe.
I'd say that Fabi is now coming under attack from Paul Tracy, who you're going to see on the right of the screen momentarily. He is right there, Paul Tracy, starting to stalk Teo Fabi. There's Tracy in the red and white car at the top of your screen.
And at the same time, Michael is beginning to stalk Paul Tracy. There's Michael right at the back end of Tracy's car.
Those two have been going at it since the race started. There's the teammates together. Carl Haas's car, the guy that also promotes the Milwaukee race here.
Did I blink or did something flip across the lens on Michael's camera?
This is amazing stuff. He's inside Carlos Guerrero there, who was so fast in practice yesterday.
Michael Andretti fighting with his teammate Paul Tracy. The leader is Al Unser Jr. Teo Fabi is 2nd. They're not in contact.
We can watch the cars at the different grooves that they have on each end of the racetrack. For example, this is going down into 3 and through 4 turn right here. They go a lot wider down, then they come off closer to the wall or wider coming off. You watch down, watch Michael right there in the white car. Here's 1 and 2 turn. Now he's going to go way down, close to the grass down there. Of course, come off real close to the wall out there. Total different groove in each turn.
Only Michael and little Al have won here at Milwaukee. Michael, as I said at the top, 4 times, little Al twice. The others, have no wins here.
Now watch that yellow line between 3 and 4 turns. The guys, the fast ones, will try not to hit that yellow line if they can help it because it makes it a little slippery.
Paul Tracy very definitely catching 2nd place. Teo Fabi now. Eddie Cheever, who had to start in a backup car because of an accident in the final practice yesterday, has retired that car and climbed out of the pit area. We continue to focus on this battle revolving around 2nd place, and Teo Fabi as Paul Tracy closes in.
This is tough driving for Tracy here because he's not only got to think about the man ahead of him, he's got to...
There he goes! Teo gets caught.
It just got a little easier for him.
Well, Teo Fabi got caught. Now here comes Michael Andretti as he's closing on Teo, but Teo just took a low line and it really cost him.
second time he did that.
Tail obviously has handling problems like many of the cars will have until their first pit stop. Keep this in mind. Their tires go away a little bit. Their handling doesn't quite match it. This is the first time in the race. There goes Michael trying to get by. It's the first time in the race that they'll have a chance to really see how their cars are doing.
So Michael sets up on Teo. Eddie Cheever, we mentioned, is out of the race. He's with Gary Gerald.
Eddie, I know you were concerned you had no laps whatsoever in that year-old chassis. Was it a handling problem?
That is last year's car. We had it on as a spare. Unfortunately, after Indianapolis, we didn't have any 95 cars left over as a spare. I didn't even do one lap on it before I ran it today, and with these new tires that Goodyear have come out with, they don't suit that car. It was just dangerous. I was a moving chicane out there. I know there's a few cars slower than I am out there, but that's not what our team is about. I don't want to run it if we're putting ourselves in danger in other cars. That's the first time I've ever done that, and I hope it's the last.
Thank you, Eddie.
There's the wisdom of great racing drivers. Eddie Cheever wisely doesn't want to peril anybody else, pulls the car out of the race. Andre Ribeiro is in the pits. He has been in twice now, so apparently there is some serious problem with that car. We'll follow that for you as well. At the front of the field, it remains Al Unser Jr., followed now by Paul Tracy. And Michael Andretti is charging in on top of Teo Fabi.
Teo Fabi in the red and white car. You can just see he's lame right now. He's going as fast as he can go, but he's not handling good. Michael is just going to get him. It's just a mere matter of time, because right now Fabi's just holding him up.
And he's committed to that low groove, isn't he, Bobby? Teo can't seem to run a high groove, and when Michael does it here, he again is able to take advantage of the situation.
But it happens, Sam, when you start handling like Fabi is probably loose in the rear end. So the first thing a guy does is go lower on the track.
To give himself room in case the tail jumps out, right?
Well, not necessarily for that. That's the shortest way around the track. He's going to have to go to slower speed.
And boy, how close was that maneuver on the last lap. Now they're back in turn one again, and this time Michael has him. And Teo again runs down on the low line and then comes very high as he comes off the corner. So at the front of the field, it is Al Unser Jr., followed by Paul Tracy. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Next Sunday at 2:30 Eastern, 1:30 Central Pacific on ABC Sports, the Indy cars will roar into Detroit. Two-time winner Emerson Fittipaldi goes for a third win at the ITT Automotive Grand Prix. Then Jeff Gordon and the hottest drivers in auto racing speed off to South Carolina from Darlington Raceway. It's the second challenge of the International Race of Champions. Two great auto races next Sunday here on ABC. Jack Villeneuve currently closes on Adrian Fernandez in a battle for 7th place. They are one lap off of the leader. The leaders are stringing through this battle as well. And Christian Fittipaldi is lining up right behind the fight as well.
Villeneuve just drove right by Fittipaldi right down to turn 1 and 2 a little bit ago, Paul.
You see that nothing's changed at the top of the order. Al Unser Jr. is the leader, followed by Paul Tracy. Now let's go to Gary Gerald.
Andre Ribeiro back in the pits for a second time. Race control reported possible contact with Paul Tracy. The crew checked all the suspension, changed the tires, sent him back out. He took one lap. He's back in. Don't know if he'll get back out. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Team Penske, Gary, is about to go to work. First car in will be Emerson Fittipaldi, and he will likely go one lap down. In the interim, pitting in another lap will be your leader, Al Unser Jr. But he has a problem as well, but one that they can overcome. It seems that after about 4 laps into the race, his dash went dead. He has no readout on the dash. And talking to Richard Buck and the crew, they radioed to him to remind him the old sprint car days. Said he's going to have to work without a dash. Now, let's see, as Fittipaldi comes in for service. And they have a problem. Rick Reineman has a problem just initially with the right front, with the air jack. He solves that problem. They're going to take on fuel. They're going to make a wing adjustment, but he is definitely going to lap down. And Fittipaldi was reported a loose condition. Hopefully has it serviced.
Wing adjustment to the right front wing on that car. We're 53 laps into the record book, all of them green flag racing. Al Unser Jr., there he is still the leader of the run as his teammate Fittipaldi has made his stop. Paul Tracy is second. Michael Andretti is third. Teo Fabi is fourth. Robbie Gordon fifth.
The only race won this year by a man who led the most race laps in that race was Long Beach by this man, Al Unser Jr. It looks as if he's maybe set for another of that kind of race, where he gets out front and stays there, Bobby.
Yes, that was an ill-timed pit stop for Emerson Fittipaldi right there in front of the red and white car. But what they feel on that is that they needed to adjust the car. They can gain more by being behind right now for later on the race. And they went far enough to still make it with 2 pit stops. That's important.
Al Unser Jr. moves down inside of Jimmy Vasser. Jimmy Vasser's teammate Brian Hurd is out of the car. They pushed it behind the wall, so only one Chip Ganassi car left in the field as Al Unser Jr. watching Gildas Barron just ahead of him. And being very careful on this pass. We expect stops by most of the leaders shortly. Already we have seen Andre Ribeiro back into the pits once again, as well as Alessandro Zampedri for his routine stop.
Now, in case anybody is wondering, what is that electrical failure inside little Al's in his cockpit or on his dash going to do? It's really not going to do anything. What it is, he's going to lose his RPM. He doesn't care. He's going to drive it hard anyway. He's going to lose his oil pressure. He doesn't care if it goes bad. The engine's going to blow anyway. So he doesn't really have anything to worry about. The pits are going to tell him via the signboard what he needs. And otherwise, he's just going to have more time to watch and see where the road is.
Let's go to the pits and Jack.
And Bobby, the only concern that the crew has about that problem is pitting coming in and out. As you know, that's when you want to try and watch your speed because there's an 80-mile-an-hour speed limit. You can only go a maximum of 85. They have a chip on the dashboard to read that out. Al Jr. is going to be flying blind, and that's the only concern the team has with the dead dash.
Now, he'll just have to go a little bit slower right there because they can't stand the stop-and-go penalties. That just wrecks the race.
Going back to what you said, Bob, you remember about 10 years ago, the Ligier team in Formula One, when it came race day, they just removed all the instruments from the dash because they wanted the driver paying attention on the course itself. They left the tack in there, and that was it.
Even back in the old days at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the roadster days, they took out all the instruments come race day. There was nothing but the throttle, the brake, and the clutch, and the steering wheel.
Luckily, at this track, the pit lane, of course, is very, very short, so the time little Al would lose is minimized.
Andre Ribeiro has now been officially withdrawn. The report is suspension problems that they could not repair on that car.
It's funny to see the Penske's again leading the race. Now we see Paul Tracy moving around Robbie Gordon. That's a very volatile mix there. Two great young drivers, both 26 years old, really close together on the track.
Putting a lap on Gordon as he does so, though Gordon runs in 5th place. Only 4 cars now in contact on the leader lap. 61 laps complete.
Robbie Gordon is not handling good. The blue and white car just atop the screen right there, not handling good, falling back a little bit. But obviously, Walker has decided not to bring him in to adjust the car this early. He feels it just the opposite of what they did with Emil. He feels he can survive better on the track and not lose as much.
Well, with Emerson, you know, that's a little bit of a repeat from the position that the Penske team took at Phoenix, where they waited for a yellow. They brought him in this time. They took control of the race from their point of view.
Well, remember, it looks bad right now for Emil, but he's really not hurting bad because he can still make the stop in 2 races, or a race in 2 stops. And he's still going to get the same amount of gas mileage. That's going to change. There's Bobby in the pits.
Teo Fabi, he was running 4th. He's into the pits, Gary.
Taking a look at the Forsythe team in action now. Teo Fabi, a 5-time career winner with one of his best opportunities in recent years. Everything looks routine. No changes up on the front wing. Fueling complete. He's gone. 14+ seconds for Teo Fabi.
Gary, that's a terrific crew that was assembled for this year. Men from all different teams. They've got a real polyglot group of guys there, but they've got some Indy rings in that group, too. A good group of men.
64 laps for Al Unser Jr., car number 1, the leader of the race. 2nd place is Paul Tracy. 3rd place is Michael Andretti.
Here comes little Al.
Al making his turn down into the pits as the leader of the race. Paul Tracy, if he stays out, will assume the position. Here's Jack.
Well, no concern coming onto pit road because it's a short stop. The crew goes to work. They will change all 4 tires as expected and take on a full load of methanol fuel. Checking for debris, nowhere near the kind of debris that we had in Indianapolis. They engaged the clutch at 12.6, and now he has to be a little bit careful going down pit road, not to exceed the speed limit.
It's very tough to say to yourself, am I going 80 miles an hour? It's so subjective.
Now, there was no pit adjustments, no adjustments to the car for little Al. That shows what we've been watching on the television. He can run any place on the track, up, high, low. He can do each turn differently. He can go in low, come out high, whatever he wants to do.
This is the 3rd time that Paul Tracy has led this year. Remember that great run at Surfers Paradise, Australia, as now he comes up behind Eliseo Salazar,
who in turn had a great run at Indianapolis into 4th place. Salazar in the green and yellow car on the left there. Tracy on the right.
So Paul Tracy due to stop, and traditionally the Newman Haas team have been able to carry their pit stops the furthest of any other team. With the stops thus far, Michael Andretti has moved into second. Al Unser Jr. dropped back into third place with his stop, but he did remain on the leader lap. Off the leader lap in fourth place is Robbie Gordon and Jack Villeneuve, who has not yet stopped. Neither one of those have. Well, Christian Fittipaldi.
Well, I think Villeneuve has actually carried his stops the very furthest of all. Don't you, Paul, throughout the season? He's the guy that's been able to make up a lap from time to time by staying out longer.
Now, something else that I've been noticing is a little bit different. Some of the fast cars are pitting earlier than we anticipated. The danger right now is the guys that are staying out there longer could gain back a lap. Like on, for example, Little Al, Fabby, unlike Emmo for sure, if they had a yellow right now. But it's part of the gambling that you have to worry about. A yellow comes out, you lose a lap if you pit it too early.
This is why tactics, Bobby, are such an important part of the crew chief. Talking to their man on the radio and planning the race can often be as important a factor in the race as the driver even.
As we watch Paul Tracy as he continues to thread his way through traffic along the outside of Stefan Johansson, who is with a year-old car and not performing nearly as well as they had hoped. He had a crash during his warm-up practice before qualifying, and during the qualifying itself, and so as a result had to move to this older car. Paul Tracy, the leader. In fact, if you want to think about fuel, let's not forget the last mile oval at Nazareth, where Eddie Cheever carried it so very far. And in fact, had they given him a full load of fuel on his last stop, he probably would have carried it all the way to the finish on a single stop race.
The speed is so great here, so fast. The oval, the turns are so long that they're hardly ever off the gas. So the gas mileage isn't what you'd call real good here. It may be before this race is over that we have some fueling problems.
71 laps complete, 71 miles, green flag. Everyone except lap number 1, which was owing to a communications problem on the start. They have just been blistering up this track.
Hard to believe this race is 1/3 over already. It seems like it just began. Paul Tracy has blown hot and cold through the season. He is hot right now, just as he was in Australia many, many weeks ago.
Last lap, he turned at 146.2 miles an hour, averaging right now 139.3. Let's look back and find second place, Michael Andretti. He's going to be almost 3/4 of a lap back.
Let's keep another thing in mind about Tracy now. He's not made his first pit stop. And so he's out in front with a light load of fuel, but he's got to make his. 2 stops he's going to have to make in the race, or at least that's what we think he's going to have to make. And he's not made his first one yet.
Michael Andretti from Nazareth, Pennsylvania.
Not yet stopping. Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti. The Newman Haas team. Al Unser Jr. in third place has stopped. Robbie Gordon, Jack Villeneuve, Christian Fittipaldi, 4th, 5th, and 6th. They have not stopped. Teo Fabi in 7th has. Bobby Rahal in 8th has not. Emerson Fittipaldi in 9th has. And Jill DeFerrin in 10th has not. So we're very definitely out of the pit stop order here. Coming back up to the front of the field, let's go to Paul Tracy, the leader of the race. He should be pitting on the next lap. Tracy, we watch for him to see if he moves down low. He does.
He's going in the pits.
So the leader of the race on the 75th lap, he'll actually log up the 76 as he comes into the pits, comes in for his stop. Let's go to Gary.
The man who was 3rd while driving for Team Penske here last year, now driving for Newman Haas. He won in Australia. He's been very effective in the traffic. They got excellent fuel mileage. There's no wing adjustments up front. Everything routine at the back. Terrific stop by the Newman Haas team. He's out of here. Michael should be in the next lap.
So Al Unser Jr. comes around. Michael Andretti picked up the lead, but Michael Andretti is due in shortly. Jack, let's get an update on several pit stops to come.
Well, Paul, Jacques Villeneuve is coming in for his service right now, but behind me, what almost was a major catastrophe unfolded just 1 lap ago. Christian Fittipaldi, teammate to Robbie Gordon. What happened was Christian came in, was in the middle of his stop. Robbie Gordon tried to pull in, was blocked by Christian Fittipaldi. As he came into the pits, he hit one of his own tires. He had to stop again. The jack went up, the car fell down, and they had a long, long pit stop of about 23 seconds. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And a problem for Michael Andretti. The car is stalled. They have to back it up. He made the stop in 16 seconds. It wasn't quick. They had to make a change on the right front. Now they have the engine fired and he's rolling, but he lost a lot of time. And remember, it's
again at Michael Andretti, and so one of the crew members grimaced and turned away as they fired that engine, and the flame roared out of the back end. So Al Unser Jr. picks up the lead of the race. His stop 13 laps ago now beginning to pay off. Paul Tracy is second.
The IndyCar action rolls on. They roar into the streets of the Motor City for the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix next Sunday on ABC Sports.
Back at the Miller Genuine Draft 200 as we show you the running order after 83 laps. Nothing has changed at the front of the field. Only 2 cars on the lead lap. Al Unser Jr. and Paul Tracy. Hale Fommy runs third. You look down through the rest of the order. Let's get a couple of updates. We'll go to the pits beginning with Gary Gerald.
Andre, we had a report that you had contact with Paul Tracy. Was that the case, and did that put you out of the race?
Well, we had a lot of problems. The car was very, very loose. And I think because of this, I almost lost the car on turn 3 and 4. And I had a light contact with him. After that, the car was used.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you.
Andre Ribeiro. Let's get another update. Go a little further down the pit area, and Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, we've looked all around Team Penske's pit for Rick Mears. He's nowhere to be found. One of the things that Roger Penske has taken from his NASCAR background is trying to have a spotter, especially on a short oval. Well, look up in the balcony. The man with the radio on is Rick Mears. He was thrown off the roof by the IndyCar officials. He's got a ticket to the race. He's checking things out. But more importantly, he's serving as a spotter for Team Penske.
Well, you know, that is not an illegal thing. I don't know why they threw him off the roof, because there's no rules against this that I know of in kart racing. I think it's a good idea. And you can see around the track, and the idea is to forewarn any of his cars, like if there's a spin out, or give them instructions on what to do if there's something that they can't see.
You're right on board now with Danny Sullivan.
Sullivan, of course, finished 9th at Indianapolis last week. DeFerrin on the inside of him there, Sullivan on the outside. DeFerrin, a driver with a lot of potential this year, so far has not been able to record a good finish.
Today's not going to be one either. He runs in 20th place, 7 laps behind the lead.
I've been watching him, and he's having bad handling problems, having trouble in the turn, just not getting through that quick.
111 laps to go. We are still green flag in the time that it went green at lap number 2. Al Unser Jr. is the leader of the race. Paul Tracy in second, followed by Teo Fabi. We'll be back with more from Milwaukee. Back at the Miller Genuine Draft 200, nothing has changed at the top of the order. Al Unser Jr. is still the leader as we give you the full field rundown. But look, just ahead of Little Al, that's Emerson Fittipaldi, who's already 1 lap down, and Little Al is just about to put him 2 laps down.
Yeah, Paul, these cars, as everybody knows, Penske had a lot of problems in this in Indianapolis. He came here with different setups, different suspensions even, on different cars. Little Al is not the same as Emil. It isn't that they're trying to slow Emil down, it's just that they're trying to make these cars work again.
That number 1 on Little Al's car, of course, signifies that he is the defending champion, but he hasn't had a season like a defending champion. Running strongly so far in only 1 race, that was Long Beach. This is only the 2nd race that he's really been a factor, but there are so many races still coming up, 7 in the next 2 months, that if he gets back on a winning roll, he could yet defend his championship.
Approaching the halfway point, 98 miles now complete. We'll go to the pits again, Gary.
And as we near that halfway point, Jacques Villeneuve, who started 11th, is currently racing 6th. They started out with a big understeer. They thought the track was going to change dramatically early. It did not. So they've had to come back to the racetrack. They say the car's handling much better now. They like the way they're moving forward. Also, to follow up on Brian Herta, who went out early, Morris Nunn said it was simply a lack of grip. The car was still handling, and Herta came out of the competition early.
Gary Villeneuve was running up as low, actually, as 15th position just after the start, so he's been working his way back up.
This has got to seem like nothing, though, for this Barry Green-led team, because after all, last week they were 2 laps down early in the Indy 500. That was 5 miles down.
Barry Green, in my opinion, is one of the best team managers in the business.
Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, let's update you. We went to the IndyCar official to get a determination on whether Rick Mears is indeed doing something legal or not. Here is direct from Kurt Russell. The spotters are not allowed in anywhere which is considered a TV position. Therefore, Rick Mears was not allowed up on the roof. But he is allowed to find a place wherever he wants to view the race. That is a press area where Rick Mears is viewing the race from, and he is entitled to watch the race from there. And so what if he has a radio and serving as a spotter? That's direct from Kurt Russell.
We watch now as Adrian Fernandez and Christian Fittipaldi battle for 8th place, Bobby Unser.
It's always a contest to outdo the officials. Look like Penske put one on them again.
Adrian Fernandez there on the left with the car that has some red on the front of it and green. Had a wonderful victory here in 1992 when he won an Indy Lights race.
That's the Rick Ellis car, the one on the left, the green and the red one. Fernandez, that comes from Albuquerque. That's the team that Al used to be with for so many years.
And just coincidentally, the city that you live in, eh, Bobby?
Right.
Well, Al Unser Jr. is the leader of the race, also from Albuquerque. The leader at the halfway has gone on to win in 9 of the last 12 races here on the Milwaukee Mile.
Adrian Fernandez joining Gallus last year with a lot of hope, but it was not a great season for him. He didn't really improve dramatically during the year, and the same thing is going on this year. They run well, just not really well.
I watched them yesterday during practice, the green and red car right there, and they were really slow for a long time. Pretty soon they found what they were looking for. The speed dropped by 2 seconds a lap.
After 102 laps, just past the halfway point, Al Unser Jr. in front. Average speed is down at 139. We've had 3 leaders, 4 different changes. Here are the cars out at this point in the race. Cheever, Ribeiro, Herta. Now 96 laps to go. You know, you're talking about Christian Fittipaldi, Bobby. On the back of his helmet, he has what looks to be a microprocessor chip drawn from a computer, and it says CF. It's Christian Fittipaldi's brain chip, so he thinks it's really well done. Beautiful helmet.
That's cute. Those two guys are looking right behind.
Here he comes. Look at Christian as he takes Fernandez. So Christian Fittipaldi moves to 8.
And if you look right behind them, there's the 2 Penske cars moving right up. There's a Lau going under Emmo, putting Emmo down another lap.
So as Lau comes across the line, Fittipaldi goes 2 laps down. Al Unser Jr. is still the leader. 3 seconds back from him, though. Just 3 back is Paul Tracy. We'll watch for him. And here comes Gordon and Jack Villeneuve. This is a battle for 6th place. As Gordon moves around Jack, can he hold on to it? At the line, Gordon has 6. But Villeneuve comes on the tighter turn in the corner. Still Gordon holds on to it.
Robbie Gordon has got a real neat groove around here. If he can make his car handle that groove, my hat's off to him. Over all the years that I've ran this track, I found that can be the fastest one if you can make your car work there.
Al Unser Jr. has dropped from a rapid pace of about 148 miles an hour. Last couple laps, he's been running down at 140 miles an hour. Obviously, he finds no need to jeopardize that position at the front of the field and is now beginning to take care.
Robbie Gordon from Orange, California.
You can bet you that Roger Penske has blood in his eyes. How much he leads is not important. It's that he wins that's going to be important.
Today's stories, we review them. The rough surface thus far has not been a factor at all. Team Penske very definitely has, or at least half of it. Al Unser Jr. Pop-off valves, haven't yet heard a complaint. Seems like the drivers may have mastered whatever idiosyncrasy exists on this brand new valve.
Well, you say the rough track hasn't been a story. Easy for us, of course, up here to say that because these drivers are getting beaten up in the turns. Most of them will be very tired by the end of this 200-miler. More so, by the way, than the end of a 500-miler at Indianapolis, which is so much smoother.
But remember, Sam, historically, the Milwaukee race is very fast, very good racing, and it goes without yellows. We're aboard with Bobby Rahal, and we haven't had a yellow all day yet.
That's right. You saw Rahal there with the padding to keep his helmet upright in the turns.
11th place, Bobby Rahal. Jimmy Vasser is the car he's chasing ahead.
Remember, Rahal is second in the championship right now going into the race. So this is a very tactical and strategic race. He must run. Look at him come up on Gordon there.
Gordon got loose. Rear end came around. He almost spun out right there.
Let's get an update on Robbie Gordon's condition.
Well, Paul, the most important thing is Robbie Gordon continues to try and chase the racetrack. The handling situation on the car is not at 100%. He also had to settle himself down after that near miss on pit road. The one thing that's interesting is to listen to Derek Walker as he tries to talk his driver through each and every lap. He continues to talk him through and give him the maturity that he needs, especially in tight quarters racing like this.
Well, Jack, of course, Robbie Gordon just has the raw talent here as we ride with Bobby Rahal, and he can hold on to a slide. He can shake off a problem in the pits. He's young, 26. He is a fighter.
Let's go back to the front of the field. Al Unser Jr., the leader of the race, now just 2 seconds ahead of Paul Tracy. Tracy has been whittling away. They're running at an average speed of 139.416 miles an hour. That would break Michael Andretti's 1992 race record of 138.031.
And their lap speeds are right up near 150 miles an hour. Remember, the average goes down because of the pit stops.
Tracy stalking Unser. Wow, great stuff.
Paul Tracy just slowly nibbling away on the lead of Al Unser Jr. 113 miles complete. We'll be back with more after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back at the Miller Genuine Draft 200. The order has not changed, but the battle for the lead is really heating up. Paul Tracy is right there at the back door of Al Unser Jr. In the past couple of laps, Teo Fabi has made a stop. Gary Gerald watched that one. Gary?
Teo Fabi came in 16.4 seconds on the stop. We think it's a little bit early, but he's very close to that window. They've been getting excellent fuel mileage. He may be able to go the distance. Newman Haas expected to stop later. They were one of the late ones to stop in the first round. Michael wants more ring. Paul Tracy says they may take some wing out on his stop. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Gary, one of the reasons why there's a battle for the lead is that Al Unser Jr. is beginning to experience a little bit of a loose condition. The car wanting to swing out from under him. Where did some of the original signals come from? This unit right here is telemetry on each of the tires that tells each of the crew members on the computer what the tire pressures are. Well, the tire pressures began to go up. It signaled that the car was a little bit loose. They talked to Al Jr. on the radio, and he confirmed it. They'll make a change on their pit stop.
And Jack, remember that last year Paul Tracy drove for Roger Penske in a car very similar to the one Al Unser Jr. is driving and having a little problem with right now. I wonder if Tracy is reading the handling characteristics and interpreting them to his own advantage.
Yellow. Yellow flags come out first time today. Indication are that we have Eliseo Salazar brushing the wall coming off of the fourth turn. You see him sitting in the racetrack. First caution last year came on lap 157. And Little Al goes for the pitch. Jack, you still there?
Yes, I am, Paul. It seems to be a nominal pit stop. They're going to make one wing adjustment on the right front as they continue to chase. And but it is not costly. It's under caution, and it was only about a tenth of a second as the car began to roll away. But they're okay.
As we watch Al Unser Jr. and Paul Tracy come out, and Paul Tracy beats him out of the pits, Emerson Fittipaldi spun and caught the pit wall.
And Adrian Fernandez ripped by both of those drivers in the pits. Not good.
So Fittipaldi spun it around and caught the pit wall just as he was coming toward his pit area.
Remember, Penske's got the first pits in this year. Normally, he's at the other end of the pits completely, so it did a total reversal in his thinking.
Yeah, but what we have to focus on, of course, is that Paul Tracy on the stop was able to get ahead of Al Unser Jr. Gary Gerald?
Well, this Newman Haas team got him out in under 13 seconds. A terrific stop. His teammate Michael Andretti is now being serviced. He's off the Jackson rolling. Gilles de Ferran rolled out just ahead of him.
So we're now under the yellow flag here, a caution at Milwaukee, the first one of the day. So let's go back and take a look at how they came out of the pits. First of all, Little Al lit him up. Headed out. He was really working the back end of the car. Then Tracy came out and drifted across almost into Little Al.
I'd say he steered across.
No, he just got out the best he could. He didn't have chance to watch his mirrors. He had to look, see where he's going, Sam.
And Paul Tracy got to the line first. Here's Jack.
Well, let's show you what's happened to Emerson Fittipaldi. When he had the wall wanging, it took care of the right rear suspension, and it is all over for Emerson Fittipaldi. A very disappointed Brazilian, as you can see, will make his way into the privacy of his trailer to try and collect his thoughts.
So Fittipaldi, the mistake that puts him against the wall. Eliseo Salazar, no indication of any problem with him after he climbed out of the car. We'll try to keep track of that for you as well. And Paul Tracy has the lead over Al Unser Jr. We'll be right back. Tonight is a full hour of America's Funniest Home Videos, followed by Lois and Clark. And then crime doesn't stand a chance when Dick Tracy's on the case. Warren Beatty and Madonna start in the ABC Sunday night movie. That's all tonight right here on ABC. Well, they've gone back to green flag racing. Nothing has changed at the top of the order, though. Paul Tracy is the leader. He is being chased by Al Unser Jr., who is 1.6 seconds back.
The question now becomes, does the change to Al Unser's car enable him to track down Paul Tracy or not?
You know, I think the big thing now is there's going to be a lot of thinking going on. We're heading towards the latter part of the race. They're going to have to take care of their tires because the guy that has the best tires at the end and is still handling good is the guy that's probably going to be able to close down a small distance like this and win the race. There's Paul Tracy out in front. You can watch his groove. It's a real good groove.
Here's the way that they went into the pits and the way they came out. Pit stops can be so critical on a mile. Paul Tracy really lit up to get ahead of Al Unser Jr.
I think we've seen all year, Paul, that pit stops are ever more important than they've ever been before. I think that they just is everything.
Paul Tracy's last three finishes were 28, 26, and 24. So this is the first time in some time that he has run really strongly.
Al Unser Jr. now sitting 1.4 seconds, so he's just nibbling away on Paul Tracy. Paul Tracy running all along, last lap at 146 miles an hour. Boy, with the EDS scoring here, you can keep track of things like that, and on a mile, you need computerized scoring just to keep track of it. In the pits, we were talking, Bobby and Unser and I, the other day about having to do it with the old sweet second-hand stopwatches and then look at a chart, and now it's instant electronic.
Yeah, you know, the guys are getting all spoiled. All the pit people are to figure this out. You used to take 2 or 3 sport people to do one car. Now you have one little bitty computer, does it?
I couldn't go back to any of that again.
The tricky situation here is that Tracy has to get by Gordon, who's right in front of him and running really hard. That battle alone may give little Al a chance to catch up. And incidentally, you talk about the electronics. I mean, they've not only revolutionized the way we cover these races, but they've revolutionized the way the cars run and are built. Amazing new world of electronics in racing.
Al Unser Jr.'s nibbled a bit more off of Tracy, and now he's very definitely in contact with him, with Paul Tracy having slower traffic to handle just ahead. I don't know, maybe Robbie will get mad at me if I refer to him as slower. I wouldn't
call Robbie Gordon slower traffic ever, and I wouldn't say it anywhere near with him, would you? There he goes, ducking down low, though.
You know, the one thing we've got to remember now, back to tires again. There's little Al chasing Tracy. How hard is he going to push Tracy right now? Because most of the drivers are smart, are going to want to save their tires for the last, say, 15 or 20 laps of this race.
62 laps to go. Traffic is a chance to get around the leader, but you also can do a lot of damage to those tires if you really let it push hard. Look at Al Unser Jr. A nice, graceful line off the corner. He's definitely trying to save tires.
Now, there's no question about it, but he's worrying Tracy a bunch. Look at Paul Tracy on every straightaway. Every time he comes off the turn, he's looking back there and seeing that red and white car.
Watching the battle for the lead. Inside in turn 1. He darts there for a moment. Not good enough. Tracy's able to pull a little bit on him. Al used up some momentum when he made that move. Now on the backside.
These men were teammates, remember last year? Not so now.
Little Al definitely faster in turn 4. He lets the car run out toward the wall much more, but he didn't get in a position to challenge Tracy on this lap. But yet there is slower traffic. That could be a factor. Eric Batchelor right there.
I think the factor is going to be getting by Robbie Gordon. Both these men are going to have to do it if they're going to continue to battle for the lead. Gordon's right up there, and he is going to be extremely tough to pass.
Gordon is 2 laps down, but with his temperament, I don't think he's going to move out of the way.
Well, he doesn't really have to. Robbie's staying out of the way. They're not catching attention, Robbie. He's not hurting him at all right now. And he is fast, so he's adjusted his car to pits.
Now, the caution was called when Eliseo Salazar lost it in 4. Gary Gerald, you have an update?
Yeah, Paul, actually no contact with the wall. The crew did bring him in as he kept the car running. They just checked him over, sent him back out. He's circulating on the mile oval now. So I said to the crew, I said, everything is routine. He says, well, if you can call spinning on a mile at Milwaukee routine, yeah.
And in fact, circulating at 16th position. Back at the battle for the lead. 57 laps to go. Hunter closes again on Tracy. Now dials down inside of him. Blocks him on the inside. He has the corner at this point. They kick up some debris. Al Unser Jr. takes the lead. Tracy darts in and out looking for position on the outside. Tracy's going to try to sweep on the outside and trap Al Unser Jr. in, but he can't do it.
It's just almost obvious little Al has tremendous speed in the turns. All the stuff that we saw in Indianapolis, the handling problem in the turns with these cars is obviously not happening here at Milwaukee, because down the straightaway, they're very similar in speed. Around the turns, little Al, whenever he wants to, just goes by. But that also means now he's got to take care of his tires. Remember what I said. The end of the race is where the tires are going to count.
Paul Tracy has moved over to running that high line that tends to save tires and work for little Al, especially coming off at turn 4.
You can watch Paul Tracy. Just as soon as little Al got up alongside, he just started going wild. Now that's what we've always seen with Paul. He gets a little bit crazy that way sometimes. Has accidents. And of course, is what little Al would have loved to happen. But I think Paul's getting too smart.
So the fight for the lead continues. It's Al Unser Jr. leading Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti in the Miller Genuine Draft 200 on the Milwaukee Mile.
This Ford Fact is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealers. Have you driven a Ford lately?
With Indy cars now being designed by very sophisticated computer-aided design technology, IndyCar, the organizing body, has a way of measuring these cars right down to a thousandth of an inch. The key component is here, a digitizer. It was developed from a smaller model that used to be used for brain surgery. You see, it gives you a 3D measurement. I can touch the wing, then press this button. It then gives me a digital measurement that is then translated back through a computer. There are 4 of these digitizers located around this pad. They are each linked to a laptop computer and then to a host computer that compiles all the data. You then will receive a printout that gives you a full 40 measurements of the Indy car itself. It's then compared to the IndyCar rulebook, and you find out whether you pass or whether you fail. You see, it used to take 30 people to tech one of these cars. Now it only takes 15. It used to take 20 to 30 minutes. Now only 7 to 10, and with much greater accuracy.
Boy, shades of that great race that they ran at Nazareth on the mile there. Nothing has changed here. It is still Tracy chasing Al Unser Jr. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, the man that had won at Nazareth isn't going to win here in Milwaukee. Emerson, what happened?
Well, the slowing down with the yellow, I pick up a lot of rubber on my rear tire. My car was already loose anyway. And my teeth being one of the first one, I had to make a sharp turn. And unfortunately, I lost the back end. I forgot about the pick up the rubber on the rear tire. And it was a shame because next stop I was going to change the car. And I couldn't hang it then, finish on the top 3 I was hoping for.
With all the years of experience that you had, you can still make a mental error like that.
Well, I forgot about the picking up the rubber going slow on the other. But I'm sure Al Jr. can win the race. We are running very strong. My car was a little loose and I was going backwards, but the next pit stop was going to change.
Well, Gary Gerald, he alludes to his teammate Al Unser Jr. By our calculations, the fuel will be very close. It might need a splash and go. What about down your end of the pit?
Jack, we're at Newman Haas, and that's exactly what we've been wondering, because when they made the last stop, under the benefit of the yellow, there were 76 laps to go. Keep in mind, both Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti were among the last to pit the first time around. They got a roughly 72 to 74 miles on the first tank of fuel, plus the warm-up laps. We asked Tom Works, have you got enough to go to the distance? He says, we're optimistic that we can. He said, however, it could be very, very close. If they get any more yellow, it may be the saving grace for them.
So a lot of the crews may want that yellow. I don't think I do, Bobby. It looks like it's going to be a great run to the finish, but a splash and go right there at the end.
Yeah, so let's stand aside just a little bit. Take little Al now. He has no dash in his car, right? So we've been told, so he doesn't know what his fuel conditions are, right? Now, so what he's going to have to do, maybe, and Jeff, maybe you can find out if their telemetry is working, so as the crew knows what he's doing to ride
Jr., 2 seconds ahead of Paul Tracy. Michael Andretti third. Teo Fabi is fourth. Robbie Gordon is fifth. One of the laps started 11th and 6th, and Christian Fittipaldi, Fernandez, DeFerrin, and Jimmy Vasser.
What are the chances maybe for back-to-back wins here at Milwaukee? It turns out that happens quite often. 4 or 5 times in just the last decade, there have been back-to-back wins.
Now, little Al is pulled out to just over 2 seconds of Paul Tracy. You're just wondering, is Paul Tracy's people maybe pulling him back just a little bit on the count of fuel tank?
159 laps complete. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Bobby, you know how close Team Penske likes to play the cards. Just because the dash is out hasn't affected their communications on the radio, and they've been chattering back and forth, discussing the fuel consumption situation with their driver, Al Jr. They are now playing the game saying, we think, and the optimal word is think, we can go the distance without a stop. That's the way they're going to play it right now, and Al Jr. seems to concede that that's the way they should play.
Well, if you look at the numbers on Paul Tracy, you can see that he's falling steadily backwards, or that Allister Jr. is pulling away, or a combination of both those. But, Bobby, this could be a fuel economy concern on their part.
Well, it's going to be 2 gambles. Carl Haas is thinking one way, Penske may be thinking another way. Most likely they are. But right now, Paul Tracy is slowing down just a bit, probably to save the fuel. Roger is a gambler, though. Who knows what he might do?
So Al Unser Jr. has completed 161 laps. They're running near a record pace here. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Saturday, ABC's Wide World of Sports goes to the races at Belmont Park in New York for the final jewel of the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge. Trainer D. Wayne Lucas goes for a record 5th win when he sends Kentucky Derby winner Thunder Gulch and Preakness winner Timber Country to the post for the Belmont Stakes. Live coverage begins at 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific, Saturday, here on ABC Sports. Riding with Danny Sullivan, 18th place. Hasn't been the best day in the world for Danny. Nothing's changed at the top of the order. At the lead of the race is Al Unser Jr., 3.7 seconds ahead of second place Paul Tracy, the only 2 cars on the lead lap.
There's little Al coming right up behind Danny Sullivan. I think you think know about Danny Sullivan, how important it is to get the springs just right on the cars here at Milwaukee, because side bite is the total answer. Danny obviously has not had it today. Just changing the springs, for example, by a mere 100 pounds can make all the difference in the world.
We've now just 30 miles to go. The question becomes, can these cars make it to the end without refueling? Let's review that situation, starting with Jack.
Well, Roger Penske, as always, is taking control of the situation. He confers with his engineers and with his chief mechanics each and every lap, and then he passes the information onto his driver, Al Jr. They have discussed on the radio the fuel and the fuel settings with the car. Each and every lap, they continue to talk their way down to the end of the race. They are still maintaining that they will not have to stop again. What about your team, Gary?
Newman Haas in the same situation, but everybody remembers what happened to Eddie Cheever at Nazareth with just over a mile to go when he ran out of fuel. And everybody's wondering, could that happen to us? Robbie Gordon's crew has told him on the radio, we'll get some points today. They've told him to go to 100% on the fuel. As far as Teo Fabi is concerned, his crew's excited. He's in 4th place. They think he can go the distance as well.
And Robbie Gordon runs in 5th. The question, Bobby, that I have at this point in the race, you might be on the margin on whether or not you're going to stop for fuel, and up comes Jack Arute or Gary Gerald. You going to tell them the truth?
Well, no, they wouldn't tell them the truth. But by the same token, just imagine it this way. We figured it out ourselves right here. We show it's going to be dead even, like maybe they can make 200, maybe they can make 199 laps. But the thing you can almost count on, Carl Haas will not stop. Paul Tracy right there, or Michael Andretti, unless Penske stops. And then he may not do it anyway.
Further update from Jack.
Well, actually, it's not an update, gentlemen. I want to ask Bobby Unser a question. Bobby, would that additional yellow flag lap at the start of this race come into play in this sequence? They didn't have to run it full board there, and we haven't had an accident to caution. Could that come into play in the figuring?
Well, it could, Jack, in a lot of ways. The one thing that's going to come out big in the figuring, actually, was Paul Tracy, because he did 76 laps without stopping, so they're pretty sure that they can do it. But I think it's going to come down to a contest on the mileage between Ford and the Mercedes engine. Which one is going to give the best gas mileage? Who, for example?
took over the lead from Al Unser Jr. Here's how it happened just a few seconds ago. A very quick closing as Paul Tracy came around Eliseo Salazar and then closed up on the back of Little Al, took an advantage to the inside of Gil de Ferran, got around Al Unser Jr., but here's the key. Since this pass, he has been able to pull away, and now Paul Tracy is 2.7 seconds ahead of Al Unser Jr. in the race now with 183 laps complete. Jack Arute, what's happening in the Penske pit?
Paul, it's taking a little bit of time to gather your nerve back here on the Milwaukee Mile. Al Jr. was boxed in traffic. A great move, a great buck, and now it looks like we might have a problem on the racetrack.
Tracy running wide.
Paul Tracy got way, way high going into one and lost the back end. Little Al closed up.
Well, he got clear out the marbles that time. Almost spun it. That's as close as you can get. That could have been a bad mistake. Little Al's closing up. It's kind of like a coyote getting ready to feed. Well, he's chasing that Tracy now.
So now, Al Unser Jr. is right at the back end of Paul Tracy. He tries him to the inside, Jack.
That's exactly what they wanted. They wanted him to gather it back up. Roger Penske radioed in just a lap prior to that. Hey, you're green to go.
So now Paul Tracy is being pursued hotly by Al Unser Jr. The question is, what about Paul Tracy's rear tires? What that slide? Let's look at it again as he loses the back end. That caused additional wear that's going to be a problem, Bobby?
He's got a four-wheel drift and a rear-wheel drift. It really isn't going to cause any wear. In fact, he got less wear out there. It cooled his tires off out there. But it really won't be a factor whatsoever. The one thing that they could have been doing, Little Al could be running in one gear higher, like what we call overdrive, to make fuel mileage. But look at the deal up there. We only have 14 laps to go. He's going to have to start racing.
A brilliant save by Paul Tracy out there as you see Little Al now coming around the outside of that traffic.
Plenty of traffic to contend with now with 13 miles to go. Paul Tracy with Al Unser Jr. very close in pursuit. They both have a clear run to the outside.
If there seems like a lot of cars out there, only 4 of the original 26 are out of the race, so traffic continues to be very much a factor in these last laps.
So Paul Tracy now picks up an advantage of having 3 cars between him and the second-place car of Al Unser Jr., Jack Arute.
But, Paul, it's now a case of rabbit and hound. Now that Roger Penske feels that they are well within the window fuel-wise, he has radioed to Al Jr. to put the pressure on, to go for the lead. They don't have to be concerned about fuel. It is going to be a mad dash to the finish.
Traffic has been a big deal so far. Right now, they've really got all the lap cars that they're passing there. Sometimes if you have bad tires, it tends to slow you down a little bit. Little Al's rear tires could be worn a little bit more than Tracy's.
For all that, though, Tracy is now beginning to pick up the speed again. He's up to 2.1 seconds ahead. Of course, the gap was down to just a car length or 2, but he's actually able now, you see Tracy there, to pull away.
Christian Fittipaldi 4 laps down, running in 7th. The factor just ahead of Al Unser Jr. Paul Tracy 2.1 seconds ahead of Little Al, who now has those 3 cars once again to contend with. And Paul Tracy, every time he cuts a corner, is doing his best to put more traffic between himself and Al Unser Jr. Look at the spread as Al Unser Jr. has fallen back, and we close to within 9 miles of the finish.
And if you look at Little Al, he's been running a little bit lower on the track. Where he's been passing cars on the high side, he's passing them on the low side now. That means that his tires are a little bit worn out.
You still have to keep thinking about fuel in both of these cars. Gary Gerald?
And in the Newman-Haas camp, the engineers huddle around the computers. Carl Haas bites down a little harder on that big cigar. No more information from him. They still think they can make it. I still think it's going to be awful close. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Gary Gerald, let's update you on Roger Penske's radio transmission. Just moments ago, he radioed to Al, look, do what you can do, but bring it home.
This is, of course, a great battle not only between 2 terrific drivers, but between 2 legendary car owners, Penske and Carl Haas.
I just want to mention real quick, these cars hold 40 gallons of fuel. The fuel is methanol alcohol. Uses about twice as much as gasoline. We haven't mentioned that all day.
7 laps to go. Al Unser Jr. still in pursuit, but still falling a bit backwards. The question, of course, is going to be fuel. Do either of these cars, do any of the top 4 have enough fuel? They are all going to gamble to the finish. In the pits, they say one thing. They say, no problem, we're going to run to the finish. We do the math up here. It doesn't come out quite the same way.
As the gap continues to widen, it makes you wonder if this man, Paul Tracy, is maybe standing on the fuel just a little bit too hard. No way to know yet. It'll happen near the end.
Ken Newman-Haas seems to have a good handle on what they can do with fuel. Al Unser Jr. seems to, for the moment, have decided to go ahead and let him run. Perhaps he's counting on a fuel problem by race leader Paul Tracy. He is now the leader by 5.1 seconds. But still, the question is fuel, and on this track, all he has to do is have a small hiccup in that engine, and Al Unser Jr. will be all over him.
But meanwhile, lurking back in third place is Michael Andretti. So far, the only race this year which he has not been able to lead, but he's running third now.
Keep in mind, Paul Tracy's already done 76 laps. He's in the 70 right now, 71 right now. He's already done 76. Got 5 to go. You can see by that how close our measurements in our heads are.
Well, the math is going to be close for Paul Tracy. No doubt in the Newman-Haas pit, they've just decided to let him run. Put their hands down. They're just watching the scoring and see where it goes. Same thing for Al Unser Jr. And just a reminder, Michael Andretti is a lap behind the leader in third place. Teo Fabi is 2 laps behind the leader in fourth, and Jack Villeneuve and Robbie Gordon have just swapped positions, with Robbie Gordon taking over 5th place from Villeneuve. They're 3 laps behind the leader.
Hold your breath.
Al Unser Jr. 5 seconds back.
I'm convinced his tires are just worn a little bit too much to have the speed that he's had earlier.
Tires, or is he playing a waiting game with Paul Tracy's fuel tank? Here's Tracy as he flashes down the front straightaway and across the line once more. Al Unser Jr. there he comes across the line. 2 laps to go.
The Penske team has won twice this year. The Newman-Haas team just once, but they lead this one now.
Paul Tracy, in fact, was that winner. As he comes off the corner, he'll see the white flag, indicating just 1 more mile to go. And he's got to be wondering about fuel. Paul Tracy takes and acknowledges the white flag. Here comes Al Unser Jr. across the line. Less than a mile to go now. Al Unser Jr. closes in just a bit. In fact, he crossed the line just under 2 seconds behind Paul Tracy, as Paul Tracy relaxes just a bit. Now screams down the back straightaway, makes that turn into turn 4. Al Unser Jr. continues his close. Paul Tracy, you watch for momentum, make sure he doesn't come out of the throttle or out of fuel as Al Unser Jr. closes right behind Paul Tracy, but it's not good enough. Paul Tracy takes his 2nd win of the year. Al Unser Jr. comes home in 2nd place. It's Paul Tracy's 10th career win.
He's only finished 3 races this year, Paul, but he's won 2 of those 3.
Tracy did one good job on that.
Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Carl, I thought you were going to bite that cigar in half. What were your nerves like those last 10 miles?
Well, actually, I was staying relatively calm. Normally, I don't. I think Tracy drove the race of his life, and the crew did a fantastic job in setting that car up. A lot of praise should go to Brian Lyle and the whole crew. And I think it was terrific. Paul drove a fantastic race, and just, you know, coming back from Indy with a big letdown just helps a little bit.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
So Paul Tracy has taken his 2nd win on an oval and his 2nd win of the season. The winner here, the Miller Genuine Draft 200. Al Unser Jr. 2nd, Michael Andretti 3rd, Teo Fabi 4th, and Robbie Gordon in 5th. We'll be back to talk with Paul. With 22 cars running at the finish, Paul Tracy comes from 7th starting position to take the win. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, Tracy, the first question everybody wants to know is, what did the gas gauge say? How much fuel did you have on board?
Well, we were fine. You know, we ended up going full rich when we got in behind Al there to battle with him with 20 or 30 laps to go. But you know, the crew did a great job in the pits. That's what got us ahead. I knew we were quicker on full tanks, and Al was quicker in the middle, so I just wanted to sit on him for a bit, and he went loose, and we were able to keep the tires under it. And I just want to say to the whole team, and Carl and Paul, this bud's for you.
Hey, what about you got a little loose? It looked like you got up in the gray stuff there near the end. What went through your mind, and what happened there?
I got up there in the gray, and I thought I was out. I wanted to go around a group of guys, and I got up in the marbles, and nearly went off, but I was able to save it and keep Al behind. And I can't say enough about the crew and the job that they've done at the Kmart Budweiser team. And I'll say hi to my wife and kids at home. They're at home. I'll be home tonight.
Hey, 10th career victory in 54 starts. A little bit of stubble here. Are you starting to grow a goatee? Is that some superstition that's going on, or what?
Well, I was just trying to get some attitude with the team, get everybody pumped up. And, you know, this is a great weekend in Milwaukee to get another win after the disappointment in Indy. And I can't wait to go on to Detroit.
Attitude is everything, Gary Gerald.
Well, here's a man who's really had an afternoon. What happened in your mind when you saw Paul Tracy almost lose it on 2 occasions in that last 15 or 20 miles?
Well, it was just, you know, it was a deal with traffic. Me and Paul were so even that if we came across traffic and got held up at all, then that's when you do the pass. And Tracy got put up in the grade down in 1 and 2, and he got way out there. And then I knew he was going to have the rubber on his tires, you know, the excess rubber on his tires. And he went down into 3 and 4, and he almost lost it down in 3 and 4. But then, you know, he did a great job and gathered it up and went on.
How hard was it, or was it difficult at all, to come back and get focused, putting aside the disappointment of not being at Indianapolis a week ago?
Well, you know, it wasn't hard to do. You know, you get in these champ cars and you're focused right away, and so
especially on the mile.
You betcha. And so you know, I just want to congratulate the Newman Haas team. They did a great job, and I want to congratulate my team. You know, they did a great job. My guys did a super job all day, and you know, they came back and they were focused. You know, the whole team is just wonderful, and I'm really proud of them.
Enjoy this one, Junior.
Thank you.
A little disappointed because he's second, but still a lot of points and a lot gained. Jack?
Well, Gary, points are very important when you're chasing for the IndyCar World Series PPG Cup, but for Michael Andretti, third place was good. It wasn't great, and you're not smiling.
Well, at least we got points. You know, the car just was a bit of a struggle all day. Just didn't have the balance right.
When you talk about the balance with a race car, to the uneducated, what does that mean? How could you describe that to the fella down the street that maybe drives his passenger car?
It means the balance between the front and the rear. Either one end or the other is sliding, and I was having a problem with my front end. I just couldn't get it to stay under me all day, and because of that, I couldn't carry throttle the way I'd like through the corners, and we just couldn't compete with the other guys.
So much promise all season, have led so many laps, and yet winless coming into this race, and now on to Detroit and some road racing venues before you get a shot back later at a mile oval. Is it beginning to play on your mind a little bit to be close but no cigar yet?
No, I think I'm really looking forward to the next few races. You know, I think there should be good races for us. We've run good in there in the past, and the way the car's been performing this year on the road courses, hopefully that'll be good too.
We talk about parity in the IndyCar competition this year. Does that account a little bit for how tough it's been for you to crack victory lane, the fact that there are so many people that are capable of winning?
Well, obviously, yeah, but, you know, we've been in a position to win every race. It's just that something always would stop us from getting there. So, you know, at least we've been in that position, and, you know, hopefully one of these times it'll work out for us.
Well, Paul, you can believe that he's lit the fuse, and sooner or later it's going to explode into a trip to victory lane.
Margin of victory was 0.8 of a second. Average speed 137.3 miles an hour. Not a record. Michael still has the record. There's the way we stand in the Nations Cup with Paul Tracy win, moving Canada just a little bit closer. Fourth place right now is Italy. Teo Fabi did his best today, Gary, but couldn't come up with a win.
Well, let's find out about the day for Teo Fabi. Teo, you started there on the pole, you had the lead, and then in getting into that traffic situation, and you've got to be lucky as well as good to able to hang on to it, I guess.
No, I think we had some problem in traffic. I think the car was very good when I was running on my own, but in traffic I really had some problem, you know, going on the outside of other people, and I think that's where we lost most of the time. And then we had bad luck with the yellow because we just pitted 2 laps before the yellow came out, so that's where we lost third place, really.
But still early in a season with a new team, it looks as if this team is showing the muscle that it can be a winner, and I'm sure you must feel that way.
Well, I think we had a chance to win a race already this year, Australia, maybe even Long Beach, so we are there for sure, and we're going to win for sure.
We look forward to seeing you next week in Detroit.
Thanks.
Teo Fabi, as the race is complete here, and that reminder, the next Sunday at 2:30 Eastern, 1:30 Central and Pacific on ABC Sports, the Indy cars roar into Detroit, the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix, and then it's the International Race of Champions. More racing next Sunday right here on ABC Sports. Back at at the Miller Genuine Draft 200. Don't you love the Milwaukee Mile? As we take a look at the unofficial results, doesn't seem like there's going to be any contest to this, Sam Posey, with Paul Tracy taking the win over Al Unser Jr., followed by Michael Teofabi, Robbie Gordon. Looking down through the second half of the top 12, Christian Fittipaldi with a good finish. We mentioned him at starting. Still not the finish I think he would have hoped for. Jill DeFerrin, Jimmy Vassar, Fernandez, Bazell, and Scott Pruitt. In 13th, Bobby Rahal, then Mauricio Guzman, Carlos Guerrero with really a nice run. Eliseo Salazar with that spin, that cost him. Danny Sullivan never really did get the car under him. Buddy Lazier in 18th. Hiro Matsushita, Lynn St. James started last place, was able to keep the car alive and move forward. Stefan Johansson, Alessandro Zampedri, Emerson Fittipaldi, Brian Herta, Andre Ribeiro with problems very early on, and Eddie Cheever. Robbie Gordon finished this race in 5th place. Let's go to Jackaroo.
Well, Paul, let's talk to Robbie. First of all, a pass at the end of the race was not only for position, but it gave you enough points to move into 2nd place in the PPG IndyCar World Series points. Were you aware of that?
Well, we knew we had to try to beat Villanueva because he is the points leader right now, and every bit of points he gains on us is more points we have to make up later on. So we knew we had to go for it at the end, and we were racing with him for about the last 30 laps.
Well, one of the things that we've noticed all year, Robbie, is that, yes, you still have the brashness. Yes, you're still willing to throw the car around, but there seems to be a level of maturity that's coming with letting the racetrack come to you when you don't have the best handling car to gut it out. What type of day was it today with the nose parameters?
Well, today was a really tough day. The car was sliding around quite a bit. You know, we did the best we could. You know, it's a 17-race championship, and that's what we're after now that we didn't win Indy. Let's try to back it up with the championship.
Came into the pits. First stop, I believe it was the first or second stop, pull in front of your teammate, Christian Fittipaldi. Talk us through what happened after that.
Well, coming down pit lane, I knew Christian was in the pits, and I figured I would let Christian pull out before I went in. And so when I went to go let him come out, he stalled the car, and then I had to go into my pit kind of cockeyed. You know, it probably cost us one of our laps right there, and that was a determining factor for, you know, a better finish than we had.
Points so very important. You alluded to the fact that you didn't win the Indianapolis 500, so now you go for the championship. What does that do to each and every race? Do you give up a little bit in the chase for the win, looking for points?
I think so. I think you race the race a little more conservative because the championship what everybody's after out here. You know, we've won a race already this year, and if we can win the championship, we'd be ecstatic.
Now, wait a minute. Now, you're not going to become one of these smooth drivers that's going to all the time say everything's so good. The great thing about Robbie Gordon in the past is you weren't afraid to throw it into the corner and go for the jugular. We're not losing that now, are we?
Oh, don't worry. We'll be ready to go race next weekend.
Gary?